Well, good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me in today's webinar, Transforming Leaders, the Power of Chief Excitement Officers. On the behalf of Zoom's Enterprise Webinar Marketing Team, my name is Ricardo. I'm located in Oakland, California. We certainly hope as you join us in today's webinar, all is well with yourself as well as your loved ones. Thank you so much for carving out some time from your schedules and then spending that time for today's webinar. We appreciate and value that very, very much. All right, so before we officially begin with delivering content to you, I simply want to set the tone as to how we're going to be operating within today's webinar. A couple of items I want to point out to you. As always, we are using the Zoom webinar platform in order to deliver today's session to you. We are not in a Zoom meeting. This means that all of you being amazing, wonderful participants, you're not on video, and of course, we cannot hear you. That doesn't mean that you cannot interact. As a matter of fact, this is a highly interactive webinar, and we welcome your interactivity. This means that you're going to be responding to scenarios during the webinar using the chat panel. So there's going to be questions posed to you via slides, and you simply will respond via the chat panel. We have a lot of people in today's webinar, so we naturally may not necessarily see your personal message because chat will be very, very busy. So feel free to use chat. When you have questions for our guest speaker, we recommend that you send your questions out of chat and send it in that Q&A panel. This is, of course, going to keep the questions separate from chat. It keeps it nice and organized for myself and my guest speaker, and then I'll be moderating those questions during the webinar. As always, we are also recording today's webinar for you. So this is going to be sent to you via an email, a follow-up email. We'll provide you most likely by tomorrow. You'll get that email thanking you for joining us in today's webinar. And of course, the email will contain a link to the recording. So you can watch the recording as much as you would like. And we hope that you I'm sure you will find the information in that recording beneficial to you. I'm also going to be providing to you a resource file. This is going to be a PDF, and I'll be sending that to you in your chat panel. This means that when you see that file, all you have to do is click on it. You'll save it back to your computer. Make sure you know where you save it so that you can access it post-webinar, but it is a PDF that our guest speaker has prepared for you, okay? And that PDF has some resources, some links that you can click on and just keep that knowledge going, all righty? We're slated for about 45 minutes total in today's webinar, again, highly interactive. And with that being said, again, we thank you so much for joining us in today's webinar. Thank you for letting me know as well where you are located. A lot of you responded to that simple icebreaker. We love to open up the webinar door nice and early. We like to let people come on in, get situated, and then of course, enjoy some music and then respond and get that interaction, that engagement going via chat. So naturally, we have people coming in from all over the country, naturally all over the world as well. Raleigh, North Carolina, Tampa, Florida, London is in the house with us today. We have Michigan, Buffalo, New York. Lots of people coming in from all over the place in California. Thailand is in the house with us today. Super awesome, right? Atlanta, Georgia is here with us today. Brooklyn is in the house, and the list just goes on and on and on. Well, again, thank you for joining us. Sit back, relax, and enjoy, everyone. At this point, it is my humble opportunity and privilege to pass the webinar over to our guest speaker, Ash Seddeek. He's a strategic leadership, communications, and change coach. On top of that, he's also a best-selling author. It is an honor to have him here with us today. And with that being said, enjoy, everyone. Ash, right over to you.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. It's very exciting to be seeing all the comments coming in, the different locations people are in. I happen to be in Elk Grove, California, and I'm very excited to be here with you today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And the first thing on my mind is to actually give you an opportunity in the chat window to let us know what is top of mind for you as you think about this session. We'd just love to see some of the key things that are on your mind. And as Ricardo said, that PDF is going to be very helpful for you, where you'll be able to have access to a lot of resources. So with that in mind, and as your comments start coming in, and I love the ones that I'm seeing already because we're really right on target. this idea of excitement is important, as we will see and talk in more detail. And that's a question that I'm posing to you. This question is, how do you feel when you hear one of your leaders talk with excitement? And as you can tell already from what you're saying in the chat window, it makes a big difference when we hear somebody excited about the future. And I want to take a minute here and share with you the journey that I've been on and why I have come to focus my coaching on this idea of helping leaders become chief excitement officers. When I worked at Cisco with John Chambers and the 50 top leaders at Cisco, one of the key topics on my mind as a content strategist working on very large conferences at Cisco that are really supposed to help people get energized about the new year, we basically looked at all those speakers and how some of them were really good at getting on the stage and being excited, and others that weren't. And I remember Ron Ritchie, the chief of corporate positioning there, saying in one meeting, he said, Ash, these leaders need to look for sources of excitement. And then when I went on to work as a leadership coach, and one leader in San Francisco said to me, Ash, I need to be able to inspire my team. And that got me thinking. And then once I went around the country with the American Management Association, talking to leaders in several companies around the country, helping them look at how they can shift from being operational leaders to being strategic leaders. And all of these dots start connecting, that when you start to become strategic, that's when you start to think about what the future has for the company and for everybody working in that company, as well as its customers, as well as its partners. So in a nutshell, being a chief excitement officer is really walking around with a dream, as we will see. And that dream is not about today, because when you think about the word managing, it's more about managing the day-to-day business. But when you say the word leader, now we need to make sure you actually have a picture in your mind. You have a dream in your mind about what the future for the company is all about. And of course, sometimes in all companies, we have so many leaders within the company, and the leadership team defines what the North Star is for everybody within that company. But then whatever you are in that company, we want you to do two things. One of them, of course, is translate that North Star. And then the second thing will be to make sure that you excite your team members to make sure they deliver on that dream. So that's really what we are here to talk about. It's really more about how can you be somebody that comes every day to the office, talks to us about positive change leadership, positive changes that we can do in order for us to take the business to the next level. So it's not about the day-to-day business. It is really more about creating a future that does not yet exist, right? So with all this in mind, we're going to start to move forward here and look at what is it that I hope you'll walk away with today. My hope is that you will walk away finding a new energy for yourself. And this is for you to shape up how that chief excitement officer concept will show up in your life, whether it's at work or in your personal life. And of course, yes, I want you to exercise your best judgment, because of course, yeah, no one is able to be on 365 days a year. And yes, the company wants you to run the day-to-day business as well as lead the future. So with that in mind, it's important for us to keep this in a way where we understand what we're really talking about. And you see this when you start thinking about, if you were running a business and you want to go out and hire somebody to run the business, highly likely when you look at how we are posting jobs, a lot of the time the jobs that are posted are about looking for people that help us come in and run the business today. Yes, there might be something about we need somebody to lead the organization. It's the current business. Exactly, right? Everybody wants you to run the current business. And when you ask the recruiters to go out, highly likely they will find a lot of people that can come in and run the current business. But to find people that can actually help us get to the future, that's the rare breed. And if everyone listening today to become someone that can talk to us about what the future is and help us see how positive it is and help us walk around with a dream. Now, everybody on your team would want to be with you to accomplish that dream, because they want to be with somebody who's going somewhere, right? Somewhere positive, somewhere more exciting than what we're doing today. And that for them means there's sustainability on the job. There are better salaries coming up. There are more promotion opportunities coming up. The customers are going to have a much better experience, and you can essentially see the dividends of thinking in that way. So with that in mind, when you start to think about your own mix of what you're doing on a daily basis, and that's a good question for us today, is I want you to reflect on what's happening on a daily basis. Are you completely consumed by running today's business, or is there a portion of what you do in the form of you running the strategic agenda? And the strategic agenda, by definition, is about the future. By definition, it's about the future. So let's take a look at the percentages coming in the chat window. How much of your time is being sucked into the daily grind, the back-to-back calls, and you feel completely drawn into that direction? So as you can see, just look at reality. This is reality where, for the most of us, it is so much of a pull. It's almost like magnetism. You're pulled every day to take care of today's business. And when I'm coaching and leaders basically say, hey, Ash, I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to find 15% of my time to focus on the strategic agenda. But if you don't, that's not fun, because the company wants to see us making sure that as part of what we're doing on a daily basis, especially the leaders among us who have a strategic agenda, that we are driving for that better future. So let's then take a quick look here at what companies are always looking for. Companies want us to work on achieving sustainable advantage. That's what most companies want, just to make sure that they stay competitive and achieve that competitive edge. And for the rest of our discussion, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at, when you as a leader talking to your employees, the words you're using, the actions that people see, all of those actions drive behavior, especially when you think about how these employees are really following and getting to see what vibe you're giving. So if you are talking to them about that positive future, they are listening to that and trying to envision that with you. And it's important then for us to understand that the essence then of your role as a Chief Excitement Officer is going to be in making sure that when you are talking, you're very much well aware of the impact of what your words are going to have. And every moment you believe you can have that impact is what I call an exponential value moment, because you can reflect on moments where you're talking with your leader and it's a heart-to-heart conversation, and she or he talks to you about what she wants to see happen in the business, and you kind of you're very excited about that vision. And then you go out of that meeting and you talk to your team, and your team talks to other members on the team, and all of a sudden we've got this sort of multiplier effect, right? And that's why this moment, particularly if you actually work on designing it, when you design this moment, it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for you to effect positive change leadership, because we want to see us generating change, but positive change that will help the company get to the next level. So as you think about this and other aspects of Chief Excitement Officers, I created a course on maven.com where we go into more detail, but I want to make sure you walk away with the key nugget that you want to use in order for you to start activating this aspect of your leadership. So moving forward here, very quickly telling you a story about my daughter, Hannah. She's still in middle school, and I remember how one day completely was different than every other day. Usually every day, and when I go to wake her up, it is not an easy situation. A lot of the time she's like, I don't want to go to school, leave me alone, and she's kicking and screaming. And I remember one day in particular, 5:30 in the morning, somebody's poking me to wake me up. And I open my eyes and I look at Hannah. She's all dressed up. 5:30, she's all dressed up, and she's got two bags on her back. One is her school bag, and the other one is another bag. And I say, what's going on? She said, oh, you already forgot. I told you, my friend has a pool party after school, and I gotta go. Let's go. And I just wondered, my goodness, is this the same person that 2 days ago did not want to have anything to do with school, and today she is up and running, she's fully dressed, she's ready to go an hour before her scheduled time? So it's important for us to think, and it's as simple as that. As human beings, when you look at what excitement does, right? When you look at what excitement does, and I'd love for you to think about what was the last time, when was the last time you had so much excitement, right? What was the occasion? What kind of made that occasion exciting? And as you think about that, you realize that if we were to come to work with that level of excitement every day, right? And again, by design, and imagine if that's how it is every single day, how you're going to be able to excite your team and make sure that they feel that they're working on something exciting with you. And of course, I'm going to get greedy, right? I'm going to basically say, imagine if that's in general, it's just in general, this is how you roll, right? This is how you're coming in, you're beaming with energy and excitement about the day, and you're just so excited about the impact that you're going to do. That's the kind of energy we're looking for, because it's not so much about the business that we're running today, because it's a given. We already have a business, it's running, we've got customers, but the question is how life is going to be down the line. And that's really where this idea of chief excitement officers comes in and helps us out. And if we don't do much, right, I think it's very simple for us to listen to Emerald Lagasse and look at this opportunity of kicking up a notch. If you go into meetings today and your excitement is at 7 and you're able to get that to an 8 or a 9, my goodness, at the very least, you're going to get everybody's attention, right? You're going to get people's attention. Something's going on. Yesterday she acted a certain way, and look at it today. She's excited. She's got something on her mind she wants to talk about. She's smiling, and they are listening in. And that's one of the key other nuggets that we want to pay attention to, is that when you are excited, it has this infectious aspect to it, that people are going to stop what they're doing if they're grabbing the phone or they're being distracted by something else. And there's something in the meeting, there's something interesting in the meeting, somebody's excited, is excited, and that's, you and I will potentially agree, it's rare. I mean, a lot of the time you go into meetings and it's almost like somebody took the engine out of people, right? Again, there are so many reasons why. Tired, disengaged, it's not that interesting. But if somebody in that meeting reminds them of the dream, reminds them of what we're trying to do for our customers, reminds them of what we're trying to do for our patients, reminds them of what we're trying to do for our insured customers, homeowners, you got to be thinking of who that target audience is that you are thinking about. And that's what we want to see you do every day. So if at the very least you're able to kick it up a notch or two, we are winners. So here is what I argue. I basically argue that if you were to actually embody the kind of excitement that Hannah had or you had when you were in that excited situation, and that occasion that you remember, I guarantee you're looking at 30 to 50% uplift in performance, because excitement actually means that the people that are working with you, they have the desire. They're not doing it for the salary. They want to be part of the action. They want to be part of the outcome. And of course, when we think about Hannah and the school, can you imagine if the school had a pool party vibe to it, if they figured out how to put fun in it, interactivity, and make it and create it in a way that people want to get out of bed and run and be there to be part of that action? That's a whole different story. And that's where, as leaders, you're walking in and you've got other human beings around you, and they are looking at what vibe are you bringing to the room, right? So that's why when we think about this at an individual level, it's really coming and saying to you, you need to be strategic in the sense that you need to remind us of where we're going. In my book, Meaning, the key question that comes up, all these CEOs told us, the key thing their audiences want to know is where we've been, where are we today, and where we're going and why. And of course, what's in it for me? So if you remember that on a daily basis, you need to be the evangelist of where we're going and why we should go there, because people want to make sure that the desire they have is validated every single day. So with that in mind, this is essentially what we're hoping. And then we're going to get into this portion where, okay, Ash, well, how do we get this excitement going, right? What are the steps? And if you remember, when I talked about Ron early on, he basically said you need to find 3 sources of excitement. So if we're working on a keynote, I'm going to work with you on figuring out what the sources of excitement are, and highly likely we're going to find them more likely on what the future holds. And Margie Waller, in her article in Forbes magazine, the title of the article is "Pursue a Cause Greater Than Yourself," because this is the heart of true leadership. And if we look at what she says in the article, we find out that research shows that people who are connected to a purpose that is greater than they are happier, they are more contented, they enjoy richer relationships, and are more resilient in the face of adversity than those who haven't. The best part is they're also far more inspiring leaders. And just imagine, again, you can reflect on people in your life, leaders you have met, and the people who talk to you about that they see in you something much bigger than what they see today. They can tell you that there is more potential for you. They inspire you about what they see in you, or they inspire you about what they see this company could possibly do. That excitement about the future is what really gets us energized. So if you are having one of those days, the best thing to do is you got to remember this situation is going to come to pass. And it's the only thing that keeps us going is you have to have an anchor point, a dream, a situation in the future that's going to be better than today. So that audacity of hope is a big part of this concept. So as we take this idea of latching onto a greater purpose, and we come back to the ground and we basically say, okay, well, how do I go about doing this? It's as simple as you thinking about the customer, your employee, your partner, and you're thinking about the life, the experience that they're having today. People in design thinking use the word hero to refer to that customer based on the journey that they're going on, or the employee and so forth. And a simple example of that is for all of us right now, I would love for all of us right now to think that you're going into this healthcare facility, you're going into the lobby, and you're thinking about the experience you're having as you walk into that lobby. And I'd love for you to think about what happens now, what are the things that are pissing you off about that experience, and how you'd love to see the experience improving in a much better way. And now you can see we're starting to dream, because the reality is completely different than what we're looking at, right? So yeah, some people saying, oh, it's the worst ever. I hate it when they sit you down and for half an hour you have no news, and they put these monitors and you can watch CNN because they think, okay, if you have a distraction, it's going to take your eyes and mind off the issue. But I think all of us could aspire to much better experiences when you walk into that lobby. If a mother is walking into that lobby with her baby who has a fever, the one thing on her mind is a doctor or a nurse to come running over to her and take care of her baby. It's not about the insurance card. It's not about your ID. It's not about filling out this form. But reality is, a lot of these places you walk in and they throw a stack of paper, right? You got to fill these out first. And you have to make sure you've got the card because the whole healthcare industry is built on this idea of billing. I was really angry when I heard that the fundamental core concept in healthcare software today is this idea of how are we going to bill the insurance company. It's not about how are we going to take care of that baby with the fever. And that's why when you start to care, when you start to think as a chief excitement officer, you're walking around the company looking for opportunities where we can take things from where they are to a much better situation. And that gives us the source of excitement. And this is what really creates that smile. So you can walk around the company with the excitement of a future that a lot of people are not seeing yet, right? And that's really where chief excitement officers become, it's more or less evangelists. And as I was just doing and helping you visualize this mother with the baby who has a fever in the lobby, being given a stack of paper to fill out, as Art Williams who ended up from a personal experience of his dad dies, his mother finds out that they've got this insurance policy, and the insurance policy is a shitty one, right? It's not a good insurance policy at all. And one of his relatives tells him that you guys should have had a term life insurance policy. And that gets him thinking, right? And then he tells you, I don't like what they did to my mama. I don't like it. And then he went around and he studied the insurance industry. He ended up creating a whole other space, a company that now multi-billion-dollar company. He himself became an American billionaire. A fantastic story to look at how once you pay attention and you desire a much better state of affairs, that's how we are going to get energized. We're not going to get energized about the day-to-day and the back-to-back calls and the current situation. Of course, we need to keep the lights on without a doubt, but we also want people among us who are the kind of people who are going to help us see what that future is. So you got to make it personal. You got to help everybody at work understand how they themselves also need to believe in the same way, right? So Linda Buff from GE, she is the CEO of marketing there. And one time I was watching YouTube, one of the conferences, and she was being interviewed, and she was talking about how in order for them to really create the kind of future they want to have, is to literally, they want people who basically do time travel, right? So we want to jump into the future. We want to walk into that lobby, and it's a whole different experience for that mom. As soon as she walks in, a nurse is coming over and she's saying, what's going on? And she tells her, oh, my baby has a fever. She says, oh, come over. And immediately she takes her to a room, take care of the baby, check the vitals, check what they need to do. I know this is like an incredible dream. We know what I just said does not happen. It doesn't happen. And that's why what Linda is saying, she basically says, we want to jump into that future, then come back. Okay, so now that we envision that future, how do we get there? How do we get there? So it's important for chief excitement officers to really do that time travel, because then you're going to stand around in that lobby and just look at this mom and how happy she is, how quickly she has received help, and what a difference that makes. So as we do all of this, we're asking you as a leader to time travel. You know why? Because you're going to have to start imagining. And as Albert Einstein says, imagination is everything. It's the preview of life's coming attractions. So when we start thinking about that lobby and the mother's experience in that lobby, and we really feel it, right? We feel how fast she got the service, how fast they were able to help that baby. And we're like, we got to figure out how to do this, because what we're seeing in that future, it makes a lot of sense. Somebody got the medical help that they need as soon as they walked into that lobby. She didn't have to wait for a long time. And if we are leading that hospital, if we're leading that medical office, we're going to have to look at efficiencies in the business and effectiveness in the business, so we can figure out how our workflows can be adjusted so we can create the experience that that mother wants to see. And that's why we have to start imagining. We have to start visualizing what that experience is going to look like. And of course, as another point we get from Art Williams, he says, almost everybody in America can stay excited for 2 or 3 months, right? A few people can maybe get excited, stay excited for 2 or 3 years. But a winner will stay excited for 30 years or however long it takes. And most of us are working in companies. We have so many change initiatives taking place. A lot of them are 6 months, a year, 2 years. But the most important thing for us to make sure that we get excited about what that end result is, what that end outcome is. And we need to keep remembering ourselves, because out of sight is out of mind. If we don't mention the dream that we're working on, if we don't keep exciting others about the dream and the outcome we're going to get out of that dream, a lot of you are going to get busy with other things. And if you care so much about that mother and her baby walking in the lobby, you're going to make sure as a leader that you are evangelizing that future state every opportunity you get, because otherwise a lot of other things are going to divert your attention away. And that's why excitement is important for you to say, top of mind, I'm going to walk in this meeting, I need to be excited and bring that excitement on this particular initiative, because otherwise there's a lot of other things that are going to take their mind off. And as you remember, if you look at the percentages, most of us are focused on the day-to-day a whole lot more than we are focused on what the future is. So I'm going to pause here and go to Ricardo, because I want to make sure we're not running too fast, and make sure we give you an opportunity to ask questions as well, because I think we're doing well on our pace. And Ricardo, I know highly likely you have a lot of questions coming in. Would
We
love to
do.
see what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Ash, very, very inspirational information that you're providing to our participants and me as well. I'd like to, even though I'm hosting you, I definitely tune into the information that you're providing here, and it definitely resonates on so many levels, and it definitely does with our participants, which leads them to make comments in chat and of course ask questions via Q&A. So number one, awesome information, and two, everyone, thank you. Thank you for participating and really being engaged with Ash as he's presenting information to all of us. So with that being said, just a couple things before I proceed to moderate some questions that have been sent our way. One, a lot of you were asking during the time of Ash presenting, is this webinar being recorded? So I just want to reiterate one more time, yes, we are recording the webinar. If you came in a little late, maybe you need to hop off a little early based on your personal schedule, it is all good. We are recording for you. We will be providing you with a follow-up email post-webinar. You'll most likely get that email tomorrow, and the email will contain a link to the recording. Two, I have yet to provide the PDF that I mentioned when we first kicked things off. We just want to have Ash present plenty of material and then complement that information with the PDF. So thank you for your patience. I didn't forget about it. We just haven't provided it just yet. All righty. So coming back to Q&A, Ash, we are perfect on time, and we have plenty of it. So let me take care of a few questions that came our way. One of the questions that I did see that I wanted to make sure I addressed to you, person states, rather than excitement, wouldn't a leader create an open and accepting environment that creates a psychologically safe environment for people to take risks and be innovative? What are your thoughts about that respective question slash statement?
It's a great question, because one of the key aspects of today's leaders is this idea of being able to foster an environment where innovation can actually bubble up. And you're absolutely right in that question. We cannot do anything alone. So as a leader, now that we know this idea of creating a much better future for our end users, whether they are the customers, the partners, or our employees, or basically the community that we're in, or the citizens, is this idea of making sure that we're constantly thinking about improving the status quo, challenging the status quo. So definitely, yes, I think that it's not like an either or situation. It's definitely a both and. And I think it's important to remember that as leaders, we just have a bigger responsibility in that regard, that people are actually looking up to you, whether we like it or not. They're looking up to what you're saying and what you want to focus on. But I love the idea of fostering innovation and letting people come to you with ideas. Absolutely a fantastic point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, from what I take from this topic is, leaders aren't necessarily the all being, all saying type of a person, right? I think a leader comes in many forms, in that it is opening the environment for other voices and ideas to be fostered and encouraged. I think a leader is someone who would also know when to take a step back, right? And show that leaders don't always have to carry the torch per se, but that some once in a while, take a step back and let others have some stage time, if you will. So there's different forms, but that's an awesome question that person had posed to you. Here's another question. Isn't the future a collective composite of multiple views, ideas, experiences, rather than a single vision from a leader? And that kind of leads to the same theme that you and I just both addressed. But if you want to just hone on that just a little more, and then we can move on to some other questions that people have sent.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well, because one of the things that will happen, depending on the number of leaders and who's at the very top of that pyramid and others. Of course, you see companies every year doing exercises around what's our strategy, who is our customer, what services, what products, what offerings do we want to continue, do we want to stop, do we want to introduce. So I think it's important for us to have a method to the madness, right? Because you definitely want to be open to a lot of ideas coming in, but part of the exercise is then to be able to say, we've got these 30 ideas, we're going to get selective which ones we think are the most important ones that we want to pursue, because of course at the very end we have limited resources that we have to manage, and we also have to manage any risks that exist. And we will also want to remind everybody that the ideas we're talking about, the excitement we're talking about, it could be something very simple, that we're going to shift the workflow in that lobby slightly to improve the experience for that mother. Before we start to go into sort of the higher order goals of changing our thinking of, instead of thinking about billing as the center focus of what we do in that lobby, to perhaps a whole more focus on taking care of that baby. So as much as you can, think small and also think big, and also think about the fact that we have to manage this the way we manage portfolios. We have to look at what's going to be the highest dividend, the highest benefit for us and for our business and our customers. And those are the things that we can pursue, because of course we still need to take care of today's business as we build that future business.
Love it. I interpret that as, putting a little bit more heart, if you will, right, into the realm of being a leader. Yeah. Here's an interesting question for you. How do you avoid burnout while maintaining excitement?
Great question. Great question. So as I coach leaders, this is important because, again, as we looked at the percentages, the bulk of the time is taken over by the day-to-day. So it's important for you to spend some time, and you'll see one of the resources is a strategic leader planner that you'll be able to download. And it essentially talks about this idea of meeting with self. Because as you'll see, we're going to mention the fact that this idea for Chief Excitement Officers is actually part of a concept called the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Strategic Leaders. And one of them is taking time to reflect. I mean, you have to sit down on a Friday afternoon, or maybe it's a Monday afternoon, or maybe it's a Sunday afternoon, but you have to sit down and think ahead. That's a big part of being strategic, because you're really designing how you're going to manage your energy, how you're going to manage your time. So it's important for us to have that time, schedule an hour, at least a week, for you to sit down and think a week ahead, a month ahead, 2-3 months out at a minimum, because this really gives us a chance to understand what's coming up and how we can strategically and most effectively make use of the assets that are given to us, not just your time, but it's your energy, it's the ideas you bring to the table, your team, their energy, the money you're spending, and all of those aspects need to feature into that meeting with self.
Love it. Love it. One more question, and then we'll move on with more material. And then if time permits, we'll come back and do the same thing before we officially wrap up. Awesome question here. Are leaders born or are leaders made?
Yeah, I definitely think they are people who at one point decide that they want to do more than the mundane. And that essentially means that if one day you decide that I'm going to build this vision about how things could be better in a particular situation, all of a sudden then, as we said in the very beginning, managing is a whole lot more about the day-to-day. But the word lead means that we're sort of going somewhere, right? And it's better be a better place. Yeah. It's better be a better place. And that's why when a parent says, we're going to go to Disney next year, the whole house is up on fire. And everything between now and Disney is just noise. When do we get everything out of the way so that that trip to Disney happens? Because you can see in the pictures they put in the ads, the excitement, the fun. And now what everybody wants to do is they want to get there. So leadership comes down to the idea that once we have a vision of what that future looks like, we need someone to lead us on a daily basis. And a whole lot, it's very energizing for people to be the kind of people that say, hey, you know what? It's going to get tough.
Yeah.
It's going to get tough. Yeah. But you know what? We've been there before.
Absolutely.
We're going to get through it. And that trip to Disney is going to happen.
Absolutely. You know, I'm a parent myself. I
Yeah.
resonated with your story about Hannah, and I know a lot of us in this webinar are parents as well, right? And we kind of are forced into leadership, if you will, within the realm of being a parent. So, I resonate with a lot of your responses to that one question: Are leaders born or are they made? So let's pause there, right? Let's continue on in this period
Fantastic.
of time, Ash, with more material. I'm going to go
Fantastic.
ahead and give the floor back to you. Everyone, continue with your participation via chat and Q&A. One more detail, if you don't mind me stating this. The reason why you are not able to see other people's responses in chat is because this is obviously a public global webinar. We want to respect your privacy and reserve your names that people would actually see in the chat panel. So that is why. So messages are just being seen by myself as well as Ash. Okay, back over to you, Ash.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ricardo. And really appreciate all the participation. It helps us continue to make sure we cover ideas and points that you are looking for. So we want to make this very concrete for you then, right? So in order for you as a leader to exercise this idea of chief excitement officer on a daily basis, you remember me talking about positive change leadership. And it's the idea that you need to be constantly explaining what's the case for change. Why should we actually change what we're doing? Why should we care about that lobby experience? I think with that example, it can get very easily personal, right? And you can talk to your audience about why it's important for us to improve that experience. And the good thing is, like, once we do that and we have the hope of changing a situation that is not so good for all of us, and then we start thinking about what that future experience is, now we're giving people hope. And that's why inspiring others really comes down to creating believers in the fact that we can make the change. And then you're able to also explain what everybody can gain from embracing the change, whether this mom is my daughter or my sister or my wife or my cousin, whoever this lady is, that baby needs care. And we can see the benefits. So I think a very important part of being a chief excitement officer is you have to think about your audience, and you need to understand their context and what is going to resonate with them that is going to help them become believers, so they embrace that change. And then, of course, you want to recruit a network of supporters, because if that audience walks out of that room from that exponential value moment, believing in the cause, and they go out and they talk to other people, of course, we all understood the whole idea of the network effect. It's important that we think about that as leaders, that we want to activate that, because otherwise, if you have 5,000 employees, no one can ever imagine that you'll be able to go talk to each one of them individually. That's not going to happen. It's not that easy, right? And that's why it's important for us to think as we speak as leaders that one of the things we're trying to do is enroll others in that cause. We want to recruit them to believe in the cause. And we also want to be respectful of the legacy that people have done. Everybody has spent so much time working and building expertise in what they're doing today, and you come along and you're talking about changing everything. So you need to say, hey, you know what, I know you've invested a lot of time. You've invested a lot of time and effort, and people look at you as an expert. And now I'm asking you to change everything you're doing. I really want you to know that I respect everything you've done to date, but you know what? If we don't change, it's not going to be fun. This lady is going to take her baby and go somewhere else. And if we want to protect our business, we want to literally self-destruct, right? We have to self-innovate. And as you do that, you're actually energizing them with your passion and excitement. So that's really the essence of what needs to happen on a regular basis. And very quickly, I'm going to give you a few tools that you can use to help you get to that exciting message. When you think about the conversation you want to have with people, you want to think about who that audience is, what you want them to know, what you want them to think, how you want them to feel at the end of that meeting, and also what action you're asking them to do. So that's just basically a structure to help you think about your talking points And even if you haven't prepared a very exhaustive conversation, if you just remember those 4 anchors, you're going to be able to really organize and structure your conversation. So as I'm coaching leaders on strategic communications, we have to use frameworks. Frameworks make life a whole lot easier because they can give you what you need to do very quickly. If you walk into an ad hoc meeting, you're able to pick it up and run. I was coaching people at Rakuten in San Francisco, and that's the key question was the CEO sometimes calls them up and says, hey, come into my office. I want to understand how our marketing metrics are doing. And a lot of the time they were basically saying to me, this ad hoc meetings environment is not fun. And I said, you better be ready. And it's all about having a framework that tells you, here's where we are, here's where we're going, here's why. So we then come to think about all those ideas that we talked about. And as I was coaching people at Cisco who were working on innovation projects, we basically, again, had to come up with a framework that helps them understand the fact that the very first thing is this idea of understanding what the tension is, understanding between the difference in experience for that mom and her baby walking into a lobby where everybody in that lobby is thinking about the insurance card, the billing, and the forms. And this other lobby where as soon as she walks in, actually the nurse walks over to her. There's nobody else walking over to her. So that tension between what exists today and what we need to see, what is and what we need to see, that is the tension that we need to really get focused on. And that tension then inspires us. That's the I in that model. And with that inspiration, as we start imagining what the future lobby looks like, that's how we get excited. So remember this idea of the T, the I, and the E, the tension, the inspiration, the excitement, and that also will help you organize your ideas as well. So lastly, as we think about giving any talk, whether it's a one-on-one conversation or a staff meeting, all hands, whatever it might be, we basically have to think about the 3 parts of putting together effective communications. We've got the content part, we've got the delivery part, and we got the state part. And these are the 3 components. And I actually have a book giveaway on the 2 questions we have on the screen. So the first question is, based on what we've been talking about so far, which part of this model that is the most important part? And Ricardo is going to be focused on looking at the chat window, and the people who answer this question are going to win a copy of the meaning book. So we'll definitely make sure that we follow up with you. As you can see on the screen, there is an email address there that you can grab, so you can let me know. So a lot of people are saying delivery, a lot of people. And whoever said state, that's the answer. And definitely delivery is important, because I think delivery is, you're going to take the content and state, and that's how you're going to make sure you deliver it so well. But it's important for us to energize the engine, and that's why state is very important. And that's why what we want to do is, at every meeting, I'd love for you to kind of stand at the proverbial virtual door and check in with yourself, do a mindful moment and ask yourself a key question, right? And that's the question that we want to ask you. What's the top question in your audience's mind that you should answer in your talk? So that's the second question. What is, whoever is saying the why, you've got right on. You want to start with the why, definitely. You want to start with the why. And that's why it's important. When we talked about the first thing is, what is the case for change? Why should we even care? So as much as possible, if you answer correctly, go ahead and email me, because I think it will be hard for us to find the ones at the very top, but I'm going to trust your judgment and just reach out to me and make sure I get that over to you. So that's why it's important for us to think about the state. And how do we get into the state? We need to think about the emotion that we want to create. Doug Stevens, who is a storytelling expert, says, emotions are the fastest lane to the brain. If you get energized, if you get excited about that future lobby experience, highly likely people are going to just sort of gravitate to that feeling. It's like, oh my God, can you just imagine the nurse going over to her the moment she walks in? Not even triaging, because they tell you we're going to triage because there are so many other people coming in. But for that mom, all she cares about is that baby, right? So it's important for us to kind of feel it, because that's how we're going to get others to feel it as well. So think about you building up the excitement, feel it yourself first, because if you don't feel it, they're not going to feel it. That's the first step in getting others to feel it. So if you're the kind of person who walks in, I am very excited today, I want to talk to you about the new lobby experience, you can tell by looking at him or her, there's no excitement at all. So it's important for us to make sure there is alignment between the message and how we're really coming across. And of course, you're wondering, is it going to be easy? What is it going to take? If you can give us some responses in the chat, how you think this is going to flow. And also, what are some of the risks? Highly likely there are some risks, because we're not really talking about how you're like always on fire at every meeting and people say, oh, he's perky or she's perky. That's not our intention. We definitely want you to be very much aware of the circumstances and be very selective in designing the interaction with the people that you care about, because you feel these are the kinds of people that are highly likely going to be change champions. They are going to be the kind of people who walk around the company trying to essentially evangelize along with you. So you're selective in the conversations you want to have with the right people. And of course, we're always thinking, what happens if we do, and what happens if we don't? And that's why when you think about companies that used to be in the SP 500, and if you go now to look at that list, they're no longer there. They could not really reflect on what we need to stop doing, continue doing, and start doing, right? What are the products and innovations that we need to bring to market? So it's important for us to know that this is something that's going to happen regardless. That lobby experience that I talked about today, somebody one day is going to do it and get all the business in town, because they figured out how to, number one, take care of the patient. And then number two, let's take care of everything in the back office. It's not going to be the end of the world, even if that lady did not have any money. It's one of the most profitable industries in the US today, right? And it's something that touches us. And the same thing, financial services, the same thing with insurance. I mean, think about how they can delight you as a customer. So I'm going to move faster here. I think we're getting very close to wrapping up. It's important to have a mantra that energizes you. And one of the ones I love is this idea of, if it's to be, it's up to me. And I would love for you to think about that. If you can, in the chat window, think what will happen for you daily if after you wake up, and yes, you remember all those challenges ahead, if you just say to you, if it's to be, it's up to me. Because again, there's so much that is so dependent on you, because as a leader, people are looking up to you and they are watching what you say. And they are listening to what you talk about. They are sensing your feeling, and that vibe affects everybody in the meeting. And you've been in situations where you walk in a meeting and the leader says, does anybody have any questions? And nothing. And then in another meeting with another leader, people can't wait to talk to this leader. And it's a difference between day and night. And it's important for you to think about the energy you bring, right? So for more of these mantras, again, in the PDF, you'll find links to some of my Udemy courses, and we're providing you with a free link. Okay. So as I said before, companies want to do this. I was just talking recently with the top 25 executives at SK Hynix, one of the top semiconductor companies in the world, even though they're making billions of dollars. And that's the one thing you always want to watch out for. Even if you're making billions of dollars, you want to know that if I don't focus and have a chunk of my time and energy focused on the next iteration of our innovations, we're going to stand still and somebody else is going to come and eat our lunch. Companies like Cisco, where we're talking about how we can use storytelling to really explain innovation ideas. As you can see here, people want to gravitate to this idea of, how do I tell the story in a way that people understand what I'm talking about, so I can get the funding I need, so I can actually see this innovation happen versus not. And those are things that are top of mind for a lot of companies. So as I said earlier, this idea of Chief Excitement Officer, it's at the heart of the 7 habits of highly effective strategic leaders. It is the habit of creating tension. You're looking at the lobby experience, you are imagining a much better one. You can also ask other people to imagine with you. We're not asking you to be the only one who's imagining. You can make sure that this is a group exercise and ask the customers, you can ask the nurses, you can ask the people working at the front desk, you can ask the customers coming in. You can do a 360 view of this. But remember that you are leading the change and you are serving as the de facto sponsor, the person who talks about it, because you're the person who's looking to achieve that positive change. So all of this is important for you to remember. How do you create tension between what is and what I call the what could be, right? So you can say, just imagine, oh my goodness, what when? What will happen when we walk in that lobby? And oh my goodness, it's a whole other experience. So we definitely covered this in more detail in the Maven course. Again, in the PDF, you're going to find the link for that. There is a 20% code there that you can use and be part of this opportunity for helping you really get the practice and get to meet other leaders who want to do the same thing. So at the very end, then it's going to start with the story. You saw what happened as I was talking. I created a situation where we see the mom coming in and everybody's asking her to fill out these forms. And then there's the other experience where it's a whole different experience. So that's why you're going to need to become a really effective storytelling. That's part of what very good chief excitement officers do. So now we've come to the very last point. I think if you remember one thing, of course, Zoom now has hundreds of apps in the App Store, which I think you want to look at because a lot of them are amazing in creating interactivity in meetings. But the one app you need in any meeting is you, right? Now you know that. Your CEO app, your Chief Excitement Officer app, is all about you checking your energy, asking yourself the strategic question. How might I impact the forward-looking outcomes of this conversation? And you need to get in state. And yes, be ready to flex, because we are going to walk in meetings sometimes and something happened. The group in the room are not ready for your excitement. So you want to pause and say, it looks like this is not the right time, and you're able to adjust, right? So, but if we, in most circumstances, if everything goes well, then you're ready to rock because you have worked on yourself. You have thought about the future. You looked for those sources of excitement. You built up the story. You looked at the tension and really built up that excitement and that inspiration. And you're ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to stop now, Ricardo. I'm going to hand it over to you just to see if there's anything else we need to wrap things around.
All right, let me go ahead and come back to video. Of course, again, just more amazing insights and information from you, Ash. We're very busy in chat throughout this entire webinar. First of all, I love that people are actually sharing their own perspectives on the interpretation of leaders, right? And what comes along with that. So thank you for sharing that information with us, everyone. I'm gonna just pose maybe one or two questions to you, Ash, in the spirit of time.
Sure.
And then what we'll do is officially just wrap it up here. Let's see, I did get one question that was really interesting. I'm gonna find it here. All right, so there was a big theme, right? And the theme in the prior part of Q&A was, keeping that excitement going, making sure that it doesn't necessarily fizzle out. But on top of that, how do we as leaders ensure that the environment in and of itself is welcoming, that it's open? Yeah. I'm trying to provide that, but how do I ensure that there's a sense of confidence and trust amongst my peers?
Yeah, great question. I think definitely, when you think about everything we talked about, there is a lot of design in the thought process. So to your point, we're going to have to think about what's the environment like, what's the culture like, what are the starting points for us? Because if we start to apply this idea right away without taking bearing in mind, as you're saying, Ricardo, what the environment is, what the current situation is, who is on the team now, and whether or not they're going to be receptive. And yes, sometimes people start thinking about, I need to make some changes in the formation because maybe I'm not with the right crowd, or maybe the culture is not there yet. And then you're going to, as a leader, then start to sort of develop the strategy and what the phases are that are going to help us get there. And maybe what you want to do is think about who are the others that I can see as helpers, people who can believe in the cause and believe in the dream, and they can work hand in hand with you. So definitely build a coalition around it. That's a key component of creating positive change. Will be the idea of making sure that you have got a good set of people around you
I
support.
love that. Having some advocates, right? Some people on
Yeah,
your mission plan to help
exactly.
kind of steer that forward for you. Love that. And then one last question, again, in the spirit of time, is right up there with the change aspect, right? How do we, when we know and we smell and we feel the resistance of people, how do we get their buy-in? What's a kind of a strategy to get some buy-in?
Yeah. When I work as a pro site change advisor, one of the things we look at is this idea of an ad car model, where you look at the awareness you want to build with people. You want to look at their desire. And these are the very first steps in understanding how people go through change. So you want to go to them, make sure, first of all, they understand why we care about this lobby experience for this mom, and then talk to them about how do they see this coming about and happening, and if there are any issues do you think that are going to stand in the way, and have them again tell you as much as possible, and then say, how can we get these challenges out of the way? I want to work with you. I want to build this new reality with you, and I would love for you to be part of the team that makes it happen. So it's going to take a lot of that level of communication, sometimes one-on-one, sometimes it's group, sometimes, as you're saying, Ricardo, uncovering people that may be resisting and understanding why. Because as we said before, people invested so much in the current reality. It's almost like buying this amazing car and it's sitting in the garage, and somebody comes to you and says, oh, you need to give up that car that you spent so much money on. So we need to reflect on the fact that everything people do on a daily basis, they have invested so much of their time, money, and effort in, and we need to show them that we respect their legacy, and talk to them about the fact that even if we don't change, somebody else is going to come in and do what we are thinking about doing. So we might as well be the ones who are the trendsetters, the trailblazers, who can make this happen sooner.
Love it. Love it. Awesome information, Ash. Really, again, just kudos to you. Thank you for bringing this insightful information to all of us. And again, it's an honor here at Zoom to be able to host you on this webinar. And it's an honor to have all of you as participants join us in today's webinar. As you can see here, I've transitioned us to our official final slide here. Don't worry about absorbing every single piece of information. Ash has been generous enough to provide this presentation, and it will be provided to you in your follow-up email. So you're going to get a copy of the presentation, you're going to get a copy of the recording, and then for those of you who won the book, 2 people that I've selected, based on your timing of what you sent via chat, we will definitely make sure that you get a copy of Ash's book. Alrighty. Ash, any last words before I officially close this out?
I just want to say to everybody, may the force be with you. Be someone that brings in some positivity. And yes, I want you also to remind them of any risks. So we're not basically saying be completely rosy, but be balanced in your approach. We're very grateful to have you attend today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Everyone, again, thank you for joining us in today's webinar. We certainly hope that you were able to gain some amazing information from Ash. We hope to see your names in future webinars. And on the behalf of Zoom's enterprise marketing team, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Stay happy, healthy, and positive. Take care, Ash. Good seeing you.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. Have an awesome day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.